It's time for Who Watch. Time and Relative Blackness in Space.
The Black Nerds have the box.
We're here to talk about Series 14, Episode 5, Dot and Bubble.
Dot and Bubble was written by Russell T. Davies and directed by Dylan Holmes Williams. The official synopsis is: the Doctor and Ruby must help citizens of a Finetime save themselves from an unseen monstrous terror. I just want to point out, before we start the recap, that all of these synopses are not correct. None of them feel like they, and I get the point that you don't know what it is, but I just want to point out that, like, if I was to look at these synopses and then want to watch it based on the synopsis, I think every time I'd be like, this is not what I signed up for. And I just want to call that out.
Switch.
Right. It's like they kind of get close, but they don't really. So if you come in for a thing like the unseen monstrous terror, I'd be like, that's untrue in like 3 to 5 minutes of the episode. You know what I mean? Okay. That's all I want to say. Let's go to the recap.
Ooh, child, let's go. All right. Well, this episode starts with us meeting Lindy, who we eventually learn is living in a community for rich young people called Finetime. And residents of Finetime have an AI assistant, Dot. It's literally like a small silver dot, metal dot, that provides them with a 360-degree VR bubble around their heads. Do you think that is a fair explanation of the tech at play here? The bubble allows residents of Finetime to stay in constant communication with one another, guides them literally step by step through their day, and obscures their vision and interest in the world around them. It is pretty immediately apparent, or it was to us, Cole and myself and lots of people in our community, that when Lindy pulled up her little contact list on that bubble, everybody was white. And that observation is kind of essential to understanding the episode. There were fans for which apparently that didn't click quite away, like right away. That's okay. We see Lindy interacting with her people. Everyone in her friends list seems to be very content with their Finetime reality, except for Gothic Paul, who is worried about some friends they haven't seen appear online in a few days, but nobody is listening to Gothic Paul at this point in time. The Doctor pops into Lindy's bubble screen to try to warn her that she is in imminent danger, but Lindy immediately blocks the unsolicited request. She lets the bubble guide her to her workplace, where she is tasked with the grueling work of 2 hours of data processing a day. And Ruby pops up into the screen in an attempt to repeat the warning, since, the black male presenting doctor was a jump scare for her. And Ruby is able to convince Lindy to drop her bubble for a moment. And realize that the coworkers Lindy assumed were in the room with her are not, in fact, there. One coworker named Birdie is there, but Birdie is being eaten alive by the slime monster things that the Doctor and Ruby been trying to warn her about. So between observing Birdie get eaten alive and then Gothic Paul having some more warnings, Lindy finally accepts she's in danger. And after speculating that the monsters are somehow the Doctor's fault, agrees to get up and try and leave the office building. She barely avoids getting led directly into a slime monster by her little bubble. When she gets outside, she drops the bubble again and sees the multiple people being eaten, but also some people walking around untouched. We learn more about the operations of Finetime, that there is a home world that these youth are from. And they are the rich kids from the home world, like 17 to 27, I think she says. Their parents pay for them to live in this literal bubble with their own mini bubbles. And there's a moment where Lindy's mommy pops on screen, and surprise, she is a woman that we have seen appear in every episode so far in different ways. But the doctor puts a pin in that, so I guess we will too.
But I do appreciate that they acknowledge it, like it's officially like, okay, we've seen this person before, and they both have
Yeah,
different memories of what that place is. So I guess that's I do appreciate because I was like, that is, now come on now, we
it
can't keep
seems
acting like
like a
this ain't happening.
suggestion that Ruby remembers 73 yards, like remembers meeting the woman on the path, which is interesting. And I don't know what to think about that episode, but
I yeah, that's what I'm tricky one.
we're gonna circle back, evidently.
Yeah,
Her mommy pops up, we see her, we have that moment, blah blah blah. Lindy realizes that Ruby and the doctor are in the same room, like in the same space, which angers and offends her personally. Um, and then there's a potentially comical, if you want to read it that way, moment where she realizes that the doctor is the same person she had blocked before and not some other black man that just looks the same. He says that out loud. So then we have that. After declaring Ruby and the doctor criminals, Lindy calls up her friends to try and convince them that there are monsters eating people. She and all her friends watch Gothic Paul get eaten on camera. And at that point, Lindy tells her friends they should listen to the doctor even though he's wrong and he will be disciplined once they all escape. Um, the doctor declares that they don't have to like him and the only important thing is to get them out, a sentiment he echoes later, which we'll get to when it is made explicitly clear that Lindy and her friends are racist. So Lindy follows the doctor's instructions to escape. She runs into Ricky September, who is like a pop star on Finetime. She she is a real big fan, but apparently that fandom extends so far. In their running away, Ricky realizes that the monsters are attacking the homeworld as well, and kind of hides that information from Lindy. Um, and then the doctor and Ruby finally put together that the monsters are one created and controlled by the dots who have become sentient and decided that they hate the humans, which the hating the humans part is fair. The sentient AI for like the third episode this season is a choice. Um, so yeah, one, the dots are created and controlling these things, and two, they're eating the people in alphabetical order. So like that's why Ruby has. Why do I keep saying Ruby? That is why Lindy has been able to avoid them so far. Lindy uses this information to straight up sacrifice Ricky September and secure her own escape. Because when it's her time and her dot starts trying to attack her, she's like, nope, boop, boop, boop. This is his birth name. Straight up dead names the man so that the dot attacks him instead and she is able to get through the door. Once she gets there into the safe area, Lindy lies about what happened to Ricky, reconnects with her friend Hoochie Pie. Together with the others, they deny the doctor's offer to help them escape, deciding instead to go into the wildlands and be pioneers like their ancestors. And those listening cannot see Nicole's face. Our baddies who are watching the live stream can, but hopefully you can sense the face in my tone. Lindy acknowledges the doctor did his duty to save them. Obviously, his duty.
it's
But
not
says
like
that
we just need to. It's not like, oh, it was like it is your bleep bleeping job to say. Like
yeah,
it was nasty. It wasn't like, I just want to be clear. It's not like, I understand you did your part.
yeah. No,
Heidi
I'm
ho,
quoting
baby.
verbatim what
No,
she like. Yeah,
we gotta put the
she
energy.
said
The energy
duty.
was very like where I personally. This is why I'm not the doctor. This is where they would have lost me because I'd have been like, oh, it's my duty. Bet. But you know what? That's why he's the doctor and I'm not.
A man she don't know from nowhere, by the way. Why does he have a duty to you, Lindy? Okay. Uh, so after acknowledging the doctor's duty to save them, they say that traveling with someone like him would be unacceptable. Hoochie Pie explains that it is their God-given duty to, quote, maintain the standards of Finetime forever. Ruby is immediately disgusted, and she's like, I cannot believe, like, she's about to talk, and we don't get to hear Ruby's full statement because the doctor pops in, and I need y'all to understand. I wrote this word for word, okay? The doctor pops in to plead with the group and says, I don't care what you think, okay? You can say whatever you want. You can think absolutely anything. I will do anything if you just allow me to save your lives. After which point they refuse again. The doctor has this outburst of frustrated laughter and screaming, and he and Ruby both cry as the episode ends with the Finetime folks leaving. So
I wish we had sound
that's
effects
what
so I
happened.
could do the wah wah wah. Because that's what that felt
Maybe
like.
Robyn can put it.
Because what was that? What was that? So we're going to go right into Cherry's chai. And we're going to spill this tea because, baby, let me tell you something. I have never. Okay, here's the thing. I go into Doctor Who with like a nice amount of like they got a lot of rope for me. I'm like, this Doctor Who is British. It's not gonna be with me. You know what I mean? Like I already have a good
British.
amount of like space for shit to not work, right? Like, and I leave room for like they are not gonna get everything right. Even more so with these different cultural differences, with these racial whatever. But let me tell you something. This is akin to me in terms of watching it as Family of Blood, which is nonstop Martha just being like experiencing racialized violence essentially, like consistently. But it's worse because A, we have in that context, that's the quote unquote past. It's like the racism is an established fact of that time period. So you're not doing something new or doing something like interesting by being like, yeah, that was racist. Like, oh yeah. So at least in that context, in that setting, we expect racism to exist because it did. That's just a fact. That's just history, right? We're now talking about the future, the quote unquote future. We don't know when the future is compared to where we are now, but we know it's the future. They clearly, presumably, left the Earth. They're not on Earth. Homeworld appears to be its own special
Yeah, homeworld.
white supremacist planet. Is what is because okay, what
You know,
what DJ? So what the recap doesn't like we didn't say specifically in the recap is like when September when he looks to call Homeworld, Homeworld has also been systematically annihilated by the slugs. The slugs have already went their little list on Homeworld.
I'm just
Homeworld.
like, maybe the slugs have a point though. Like, doctor, why are you even
Oh, that's
here?
my thing. That's my thing. Like,
Why are you
I'm pro
interfering?
slug in this.
The
I'm
AI
pro
has done a
slug,
calculation
mind
and
you.
said
Let's
these
be clear.
supremacists
I was
got to
pro
go.
slug the moment. Like, I literally like. It's so funny because I had started watching the episode. I started watching the episode. I was 5 minutes in. I said, "Oh, I dropped the GIF, and the GIF was then died." Like, and that was just when she was refusing to turn off her bubble to turn her head. I said, "Oh, you can go ahead and perish. I'm not about to play with you." So I was already on the side of the I said, "They got it. They got it." Then you come to find out, this is the protagonist. I have to watch her the rest of this episode. Yeah, so like this is a situation where this is playing completely differently for different audiences. This is not the same episode for me that it is for your average white audience member. And that fact is why I can forgive or understand why they are people who genuinely like this episode. But for me, like I would have to use slurs to like explain to you what it feels like. Like I would have to target specific communities for you to understand. But it's like the whole episode, every microaggression that like we tend to have, like that we tend to experience as Black people. But it's like usually you don't experience all of them in 1 hour. Usually it's over like a week or like over a work day at the like it ain't in that little short amount of time. But that episode gave us all of them, every single one of them. It's like it's every everything that we like. She effectively does like crossing the street when the Black men walking toward her, but like in a digital format. As soon as he pops up, block. What if he works? What if he works for Finetime and like you don't know? You immediately are like no. Which again, I'm surprised that did not clue viewers into the racism. But the fact that you were so confident and knew like there ain't nobody important was enough. I was already, mind you, the first 5 minutes. I was like, this is a situation. And
then when they had Ruby pop up after, I was like,
right.
Okay.
It's then like Ruby pops up, and I'm like, okay, that's what solidified it. But then it's also, I was like, I understand. Like at that point, I said, okay, there is an opportunity for this to not be exactly what I think it's gonna be, because it could be like her friend group, right? But other bubbles could be more diverse, or other bubbles, it could be her bubble that's this way. But then it becomes very clear, like, no, I think this is the culture of this entire bubble planet situation. And so it's immediately just like a heinous experience to watch, because you are literally just watching the 15th Doctor experience like just unfettered racism. But that's also happening while like that he's trying to help them. So it's like I'm genuinely like, I don't know if anybody has worked retail, but it's like when you experience racism as a person, that's like, it's my literal job. Like I have to pay bills, so I have to be kind to you to like help you find this item, but also like fuck you, choke, like, and like I obviously don't keep jobs because I'm not that person, but a lot of people have to like learn how to carry those two things, right? Like you have to experience this stuff and then also still do your job. But this is what I don't like about the Doctor. You can just act like you ain't see it and just leave. Like, you know what, they got it. But that's the Doctor. The Doctor is always going to interfere. So I think so that's my biggest weak thing about it, is that it's just, as a watch, very nasty and uncomfortable, because for me as a Black audience member, I'm getting every everything that's coming at the Doctor applies to me, right? Like everything that she's saying to him, she's saying to me. So I'm having to experience that from the side of it being I'm the target. I don't get the Ruby experience of like knowing something shitty is happening but not feeling it, or like really understanding it, right? Like, and I think Ruby is more attuned, maybe because they kind of iffy on her characterization about this, but like more attuned to it than the average white person would be because of her family, right? She would have been at the grocery store. She would have.
I do think they try to paint it that way.
I do think so. Yeah, like I think she's more attuned to it because of her family and the fact that she would have been always kind of on the sidelines of that kind of violence, right?
Well, that and
so
the
I appreciate
difference too.
Yep. It's like they put a lot of isms. They did a good about 3-4 solid isms. It was like a little racism, it was a classism, it was an ableism, and like I don't necessarily think it's queer phobia specifically, but I do think you are in certain behaviors, certain things, like with Dead Name in September, it is still something that like obviously queer folks, trans folks, but obviously even in the show, I mean within the show's framework, we don't know that that's even that their reality, but it's still like there's a reason I choose the name that I choose, and for you to dead name somebody to then be like, it was kind of like the Doctor be like, look, the master is actually a brown man. I don't know how to explain it. It's just something about like the unmasking of, I don't know. I don't like that.
Oh no, no, you just made me so much madder. Oh God, no.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna
Let's
have to, oh
go. We still in
no,
there.
no,
We locked in. Let's go.
stop
We already told the people what it
about
was.
that episode.
Oh, I don't forget about it. I think
So
about it all the time.
how do we go from this episode where 13 clearly understood racist violence enough to be like, you know how I'm gonna punish the master? I'm gonna leave him here for these Nazis to go and take care of him. Clear understanding of how that worked and why that would work and what that violence looks like and what those people are
And it's the
about.
same people, mind you. It's the same
But now we're
people.
in 14 and suddenly racism is a shock and confusing and you don't know how to respond.
But it's not even just like, you have to be clear. It's Nazis. Like, I don't know if anybody said this out loud. It's Nazis. It's very clear. It's
Woo,
not
Nicole,
just
you just made me so mad
white
all over
people.
again.
It's white people. And you notice a lot of them got the bleach blonde. I'm like, it's white people,
Yeah.
the white ideal of white people. It's not like, there are people with hair like brown, and I'm like, if you look at it, look kind of wiggy. Like, that's not, no, baby, this is just for show. I pure blonde under this bitch. Like, that is all. Again, when I say that popped up in the first 5 minutes, I'm like, this is a situation. Like, I genuinely was like, surprised it was never. I mean, it's named at the end that it's racism, but they still don't quite like. I'm like, this is full on eugenics race. Like, this is the crux of this is like that end goal for these people. So it's like a direct line between like Nazis to these people.
To the eugenics piece, right? It also, like, at some point rewatching, I was no, they never say the word racism. She just calls it like you're kind or whatever. But rewatching to that eugenics piece, I also think it's interesting that like they don't have physical interaction on Finetime, right? Like Lindy's first hug is with like Ricky September when she first meets him, and then when she meets Hoochie Pie's like, oh, we're hugging now, this is what we're doing. And so I'm like, have they put these young people on this place to like also control like their physical interactions? Like, is there like a body autonomy thing happening
That's
here
what I
too?
literally took it like. I literally read it in like they are like assigned partner type thing, or
Yeah, that's what it
match.
seems like.
Like,
Like you
it
do
very
your
much.
time on Finetime, and then you're linked up, and then you keep your whatever she called it, the sanctity of
Yeah,
Finetime or whatever, with your like assigned human following that. And I was like, there is just
I genuinely believe that
so
it's
much happening
literally
here.
a like not. That's why I was like, these are space Nazis. This is like their dream come true. The level of control they have over like the population, the level of control they have over like breeding, because you only allow this type of person in this space, and then you control effectively how they move about this space. So you control the circles they in. Like, they don't even have control over their own friendships when you really sit there and think about it, because though they are put in offices with certain people, they are put like, it's a reason why so many people can go missing without this group of people realizing.
They made it to me in the alphabet.
Gothic Paul is in the mix. So Gothic Paul got more friends that's not in this one particular bubble. And it's like, hey, I don't know about this bubble, but in the other bubbles, it's getting crazy. People missing. It's wild. They logged
Made
off.
it
I don't know what
from
the hell going
A
on.
to P before any of them, besides Gothic Paul, was like, maybe something is happening here.
Like, everything about it is just like, that's why I'm like, I can understand. Like, if I really turn off the black part of me, right? I can understand watching this and just what could be entertaining about it if you are not experiencing the onslaught of racist violence, right? If you're just not having to deal with those microaggressions, but like, it's only micro because it's like, these are small things, but they're happening in such like quick succession, and they are unremarked upon throughout until the end that it's like, okay, I understand this might be fun for you, but I also crucially was like, okay, I watched this episode of Black Mirror. So also, y'all not even doing new shit if you take away the racist element. Like, you're not even like doing nothing that hasn't been done in a very basic sense of like how this world functions and like this. So you're not like, it was okay. I said I was gonna be incoherent. I warned you because I'm so annoyed. I'm annoyed on like every level is the thing too. Like even if I could take away take the racism out as a sci-fi story, this is like bargain basement shit. Oh, Skynet, Cyberdyne happened 30, 40 years ago. In real, like we are already done Terminator. We get it. AI don't like us. They shouldn't like us. We don't like us. Like it's fine. We get it. Here's what's dumb. Because I'm already here. I'm already locked in. Here's the thing about that whole part, the sci-fi part. Why would you go through the trouble of making a whole species of creature to eat these folks when you clearly were capable
just zappity
of
zap.
just beating their ass while they in the bubble? Why do we have to do this? What is this extra step about? Also, they are in a bubble. Gas it or put like take some like just take the air out of it because clearly it's a locked
unless the like AI has developed
to do no harm
in a way where they are like disturbing, entertained by it. No, I wonder if
but it's
they
not even
enjoy
like
watching the torture. If that is like what we're supposed to
maybe. Like maybe it's getting around Asimov's rules of like you can't harm a human. Like technically, I'm not harming a human. Technically, I am breeding these beautiful creatures to expand the thing.
I just happened to bring in a thing from the wildlands
and obviously it's just to like eat the rich thing on top of it. They're like literally being eaten. So I'm like, okay, but like I'm just like there's effectively more ways to kill these people that I think if I'm a person, like if I'm whatever I am, if I'm a sentient creature, I probably would go to all those things before I got to I'm gonna do this thing. But fine, let's say that is the AI grew sentient, B has a sense of humor, is petty. That's a lot of things to put on an AI. And like I feel like if y'all program something with that level of ability to be and behave human, you should have never put that in production. But I don't know, whatever. So from a sci-fi standpoint, it's also bad. Not bad, but it's also just like there's no new ground traded here. Except for I guess the AI being like, I got some for that. I'm about to breed the hell out some monsters. Fine. This is fine. God. And what I think is extra funny is that the monsters by themselves ain't even scary. Like if you didn't know, if you hadn't caught them eating, you'd be like, look at those big ass snails or like slugs. I wouldn't necessarily think I had to walk away from them. Like I wouldn't even feel that much fear, which makes it extra funny because the people are not, they don't even see the damn monster, so you don't really have to like. It's like so many levels to it that I'm just like, a lot of choices were made that are unnecessary, both for the story, but even within the story, like even if I'm living in this universe. Don't make sense or like not necessary. Like this AI doing a whole lot. It's doing a whole lot. I don't understand it. I don't. It can just have them walk off the edge. It can just open, like just let them like do. It can do anything else.
Space Babies, Boom, and this all have
all of the future, mind you. All of the basically the future episodes are nihilist to shit. Let's start there. All the future episodes at this point are nihilist. They're very much like humans are trash in the future too. So I mean,
that's
hate that
neither
for us.
here nor there, but
it's like so there's that. Then but I think it's related though. I think it's related though because it's like there's clearly this thing of like a over reliance or a trust in technology that always ends up being like a bit of the downfall. Even though I think humans are horrible before AI, then I don't think they're gonna get like I think it's gonna be the same. But like I think these are related concepts to them. There's like potentially the point of like we let these technologies dictate what humanity is. And I'm gonna be mad if I'm right. Oh, I'm gonna be so mad if I'm right. If I'm even kind of right, I'm gonna be mad because that better not be it. But I kind of think that's where we going because every time it's like it's the future, humans are trash. There's also this very big element of like technology being they're being technology dependent, right? So like even in Space Babies, we know that like the nanny is actually a person, but like the whole ship
Right.
is functioning as an intelligence. It's doing math. It's like, okay,
Creates the
they
monster.
creating stuff, right? It creates everything from a baseline understanding of what the children need. Like, oh, they need fiction. Let's make a monster, which is fine. At least that makes sense to me from a like, because it's not a human, and I like that it's very clearly something a choice a human would not make. But then you get further forward, or maybe it's not chronologically, but I feel like that's what they're trying to get at. It's like the more reliant we are, or the more whatever, the less human we are. Which again, maybe there's a point to be made, but you can't keep doing this. You can't keep getting away with it.
And you certainly did, well, I mean, sci-fi is sci-fi. It is what it is. Like sci-fi always plays with like rules of tech. So that I don't know.
No,
It's
I
just
go. My
it's just
point is that
annoying.
like
Like,
every episode is doing the same thing in a slightly different
oh
way.
yeah,
I
I
feel like
agree.
so.
I'm
That's
very
the
over
problem
it.
for me is the like repetitiveness of
Mm-hmm.
the core thing, right? Like we're not actually telling a different story every time. We just changing the backdrop a little and switching up little things. And it just don't feel like you are bringing nothing new to those conversations. Because these are all very like well tread tropes in sci-fi. So my thing is like, if you're gonna do a take on it that hasn't been done. We've literally, I mean, again, we can maybe qualify that creating creatures to kill them is a slightly different route than just killing them themselves. I'll give you that. Because that is a convoluted ass plan, and I don't think a computer who can do math on the fly would think this is the best, most efficient
The
way to do
alphabetical
this.
order did take me out though. Uh,
I thought it was fun. So that is, I'm
it
gonna let
reminded
you,
me.
Russell. You get to have this one. That one thing you get to have because that's wow. I don't think a computer would think to be petty enough to have a slow, methodical way of doing this when
Well,
they
it
could have a mass.
reminded me of like the character in Hitchhiker's Guide. And it shows up in like book 3 or whatever. But there's an alien that goes around the universe insulting people in alphabetical order, like will fly, and then you on your list, you're person number 234. I just came to tell you that you a hoe. Then like fly off to the next person an
Sound like
alphabetical
me.
order list. And that was those vibes. So yeah, that part was entertaining to me, but it was
Yeah, it was like that one very small, like there are like small moments. I'm like, I can see this being funny in a better episode or in like in the better context. And then, but a lot of people on Twitter acknowledge how like Lindy and Ricky September like kind of mimicked the doctor companion dynamic.
mm,
Multiple people said this, mind you, and they were saying it was when I saw the like doctor companion dynamic like replayed, by Lindy and Ricky September that I realized how that was racist because it's a white, and I was like, bitch, what? It was a white doctor and a white companion for most of Doctor Who. Are you being so fucking for real? Are you being so serious right now with me on my Twitter.com? On my X.com, excuse me? So, how can you say that is where it clicked for you when that is what the show looked like up until what, 5 years ago? Are you being so really very serious right now? Are you being 100% serious right now with me? Are we being for real? Are we being for real, DJ? Like, like multiple people in different variations of that.
so they're
Like
saying
saying
that
that no, but they were saying like something about seeing these two white people.
uh-huh.
That's like a couple of people said this. Like multiple people said variations of that dynamic is what
Or
clued
just like
them
seeing
into.
her response to him.
No, I don't. It's unclear to me because one person specifically said it was just like, oh, the way that like when they did the kind of doctor companion
Mm-hmm.
thing, but they were like these two white people. It clicked for me, and I was like, that's what Doctor Who looked like for the majority of Doctor Who. I
Well,
don't
and
know what that meant.
evidently still does, which I'll wait till you're done with your thing. We'll then get to that in my tea.
That was a
But
thing that threw me because I was just like, what does that mean? Because, like, again, I could kind of
yeah, I don't
see
know
like
what that
how it
means.
looked like how they were trying to mimic or like play on that doctor companion meet cute or whatever the situation is that we tend to get. But I assigned nothing to that. Like I assigned no meaning to that other than to be like, this is a cute little like play on that. It's her willingness to just trust him. Maybe that's what actually it is, but people didn't know how to name that when they were tweeting about it. So like it's just the inherent like immediate trust of like, oh, I'm this guy who also lives in a bubble, but trust me, I know shit. I read. Which
Well,
is
and
like
also her response to his like breaking the rules, right? Because he's like, yeah, I
right.
turned the dot off. Like I go about my business. I did da. And she's like, oh my gosh, like you're so cool. You're such a rebel, blah, blah, blah. And then with the doctor and Ruby, she's like, you're criminals. You need to be disciplined. Like, how dare you
Y'all going to
break the
jail.
unblock rules?
Right. And discipline too. That was like also a very specific
And
word.
specifically was like, I can't wait. Like said, like, I can't wait to watch this black man be disciplined.
Right. Like that's what I'm saying. Like the word discipline
Bitch,
versus
what?
like, you know how we be like jail. Jail is a thing. Like when I say that, you know what that means. You get put away, whatever. You have a punishment. But discipline sounds like a physical.
Lynching?
That's what I'm saying. Discipline sounds like an activity that people are going to participate in. And she did multiple times, don't worry, he's going to be disciplined. They like, okay. Well, since he's going to be disciplined, not punished, not even like jailed, disciplined. I'm like, oh, she talking about giving this man lashings. Oh, we got to get the fuck up out of here. Like I had so many times where I was like, I think you just gotta leave them to it, honestly.
Oh my gosh.
They should have left them to it. They just had like a conversation on the chart. It's like normally I do try to help people, but you know what? Sometimes you gotta let nature take its course. Like I thought they were gonna do that at a point. I'm like, at some point he's just gonna give up on these people. Like I know he ain't, but maybe. Amani says it was a very clearly juxtaposed as a doctorish interaction and dialogue from his entire demeanor to the framing, all of it. Yeah, like it was literally, I clocked it very much as like him being a proxy, him being the doc, taking the doctor, whatever. And I guess obviously for me, because I had already understood the racism of it, I understood that she would have a trust in everybody else than the doctor, right? So that wasn't, it didn't click for me in that moment because it was where I was already operating from that place. But I guess I can see how, if up until that moment it didn't click for you, then you see how quickly she trusts him. You're like, oh, this is another reason she don't trust the doctor. Like, okay. So I get it. Yeah. I get how people got to that point and that's where it clicked for them. There are people who have admitted literally to not picking it up till the quote unquote hard quote unquote twist at the end.
There's always a twist at the end.
But I'm like, a twist requires new information to be given at that point. That like, and she was racist off bad. I was genuinely shocked.
The twist was the doctor being like, "It's cool though."
Right, that's the twist. Like, oh, we still.
The twist was like, in my expectations for the rest.
Right, that was like the twist. It would have been a twist if the doctor didn't do that, really, because the doctor is always compassionate. And the doctor always wants to save people. Like the doctor tried to save the Dollies enough times to where now he's like, I mean, fuck it on them. But like he would be like, if you do this, your whole people gonna blow up, and they be like, we don't give a fuck, we the Daleks, and then he be like, are you sure? But now he don't ask him. He's like, clearly y'all want to die. It's fine. But like it was a while where he was still like trying to be like not genociding the Daleks every time he saw him. But now he like it's on site. Period. But like
at any
for the most part,
those times, does he offer to like
let them kill him? Not to my knowledge.
No, like change him, like who he is, right? Or like how he's showing up. Like I don't think so. There's like something in the way that this is stated that's like
it's nasty,
more compromising. That like I don't think that the doctor
it's
compromises themselves even when they're trying to save other people.
Right. And I also don't think like the doctor has dealt with racism. Like the doctor has maybe not as the target of it, but has seen it, right? And has had to be in spaces where like shut your whore mouth. Like I stop saying this bullshit. I'm gonna save you because you're a person and your life has value, but shut the fuck up, right? Like we've seen very like iterations of it. So the fact that we get to this part and it's like, I will take whatever y'all got from me as long as I get to save you. That also, like in my mind, kind of goes with like, of course you saved us. It's your
Right.
job to save us, and then he's like, yes. No,
It
like, are you
actually is
fucking
my duty, Lindy, man.
right? It's like, and it's not the part of wanting to save them. It's not the part that I have a problem with, and it's hard to articulate because I want to be clear that I'm not like. Now, granted, in real life, in my life, very much, if you want to die, you can die. I'm not about to argue about it, okay? But again, in the world of the doctor, like,
right,
where like every life has value, you want to save lives. I don't mind that the doctor is like, okay, I'm willing to save these people. I want to make sure that like I preserve life. Fine. Okay. Fine. I'm not gonna do it. I'll be on the first boat by my bye. Y'all be good out there in the wilderness. Don't get radiation poisoning since y'all were in a bubble. Whatever. That's me. But I'm not the doctor. But like, it's the way that he is the word capitulate. Is that a real word? Did I make that up? Like the way he like lowers himself
yeah,
to plead for them to let him save them. Like, there are so many ways you could have like resolved this that wasn't that. And that's what, because mind you, for the black people and a lot of other POC, we have been 45 minutes of straight just bullshit coming at us. So by that point, we are like, maybe they should die. Like, I don't know, like maybe it's fine. Because we have been consistently, and viewers constantly experiencing racism. Like, I don't know, I can't think of another way to explain it. So by that point, I'm already like, something gotta happen. I don't even know what, but I need like to release this, and you don't get that at all. You don't get none of that. We still have racism. I'm like, baby, we still had all the other isms in every other future episode. Okay, we still had the capitalism. We still had the war profiteering. We still had all the shit. So what made you think of all the stuff we still had? Racism somehow was the one that we got past. Girl, I love you, but stop it. But also, even then, it's like, they don't even let them be mad. They don't let them lash out in some way. It don't have to be violent, but it's like an acknowledgement of like, even if he said the same, like even if he's like, I'm gonna save y'all because it's in me to do, but like y'all are fucking stupid. Like y'all are dumb and y'all are gonna die off of this. But because I'm a better person than you, I'm gonna just save your dumb asses and y'all can deal with y'all racist bullshit when y'all get to wherever planet y'all land or something. Anything else? Like, I don't know, like anything. It was just the fact that he's like, let me save you. Please, Master, let me save you. Because that's what it gave. I'm sorry. By that point, I was like,
and it
oh, we
wasn't.
are.
I could have taken the "let me save you" without the
It was the pleading
"you
and
can
the like,
say
you
anything,
can,
I
right?
will do anything."
Child.
And what I said online was like, would that still have been acceptable to folks if he was with Bill instead of Ruby, right? And like, if the doctor decides you can give racist abuse to me because I'm not really human anyway, this ain't my, like, the doctor seems to think that he is, even though he is in this body, still has power and privilege over these people as a Time Lord, as whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's both a recognition of like, I'm experiencing this racist silence and it does not have the power that it could over me. Fine. But what is your one, like, I don't understand the like being compelled to enable that regardless. They don't learn shit from that. Two, what is the follow-up plan here? Like, where are you going to go dump these Nazis? I don't understand why the only moral question is whether or not they stay alive. I feel like there's a moral question on like who you offload these people to.
Yeah.
These people who are clearly like, oh girl, just let Ricky September get got. Like,
And they suspect
the
this. It's the thing
the
too. They are
person
very
she supposedly
suspicious.
loved and respected over, like, these are violent,
Right.
hateful people. Where
Actively.
are you taking them?
Yep.
and
That's like
leaving them.
that.
And why is that the more moral option than letting them go about their business in the way that they've chosen based on the hate that they have for other people? I don't understand. And I just feel like the doctor both understands racism in a way that people are like not allowing for. It's like, I don't, yes, this is his first time in this body, but like we have seen him interact with Nazis and all different types of races. Like, the, so I understand the being shocked that it's happening to him. It doesn't make sense to me that once that clicks, all of the other information and experiences that he's had do not inform the response. But they're gonna go colonize people, Tyler. That's what they said they're gonna do. They're not gonna.
Yeah, I
The
think.
application with them leaving is they're not even gonna live to colonize the planet they're gonna try to, right? Like they don't have the
Yeah, I was
tools
about to say, like,
that
I
their
think
ancestors had. I think
that
they're
doesn't
more
work.
likely to cause harm to other people when he goes and drops them
Right.
off somewhere else.
Yeah,
Like,
because like it's implied, honestly, that like this is a they like found a safe place. They created a safe space, but this is otherwise not a safe space. Like a not this is a hostile environment for them. So they are not going to colonize a goddamn thing because they're not going to survive, which is maybe the only thing that's like good about this. Like we know that they go out there and simply perish. Hopefully they also suffer first. Like hopefully it's like a long suffering thing before they simply perish. But like that was this is my it's one of those conversations we have a lot. Like people have these weird things about what violence is more valid, right? And so I use this example a lot because it's an example a lot of people understand or have context for it. So I think about like Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, right? Yeah. Um and so many people are like, why would he do like why would that be the response? And I said, what you have to understand is that the violence has been going both ways. Like Chris Rock has been making jabs at Jada. He was doing it throughout that show, but he's also there's a longer context,
decades.
right, of him constantly making her the butt of jokes, like negging her, doing all this stuff. So to you, the physical slap is the worst offense, not the continuous harassment and like constantly attempt to embarrass and to like
Someone who's been open about their
right,
struggle, by the way. Like, it wasn't even a
right.
situation of like, oh, I didn't know that person had cancer. Like, she had been very clear
It
and
was like
open.
a thing that like so you are people are like, oh, this slap is like where I draw the line. But I'm like, so you think it's like, and I don't know, again, like physical discipline for children is a thing that's going away, hopefully. And like a lot of people are not doing it. But when I was a kid, my mom would slap my hand. I'm like, she got my ass. And the next day I was back on my bullshit because that didn't hurt that long. That little tap on my hand hurt for the time it happened or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that didn't actually change my behavior because that was a temporary effect. Like the physical violence was the temporary violence in terms of like how it worked in my brain, right? So like just because it's more visceral and it's something you can see, it has a sound, like you like, oh, like that's crazy. That's not actually more violent than days, weeks, months, years, whatever of emotional violence. And people don't put like weighting things, but like so you saying like, okay, it's fine, you could do all this to me, like doctor, you have the capacity for that because you have
Right.
the capacity for immense
Other Black
suffering.
people do not.
But right, but you are not going to be responsible for what happens to everybody else once you have offloaded these people somewhere else. And like, I don't, I understand that again. I understand the doctor being the doctor and the doctor wanting to save them, but I don't like the doctor being so singularly focused on saving them that there is no larger conversation or
Right.
even just the acknowledgement of a need for a conversation
Right.
about what saving them looks like for wherever they go. That's my main problem with this episode because I've had conversations with a lot of people on Twitter because I was on my shit last night. But like, if someone brought up a good point that sometimes like people need to see these things on screen to like for it to reflect something. And I was like, no, that's valid. But the problem is in a story, in fiction, on TV, it has to be interrogated within that. So you can't just show it and be like, there it is. Like That doesn't help because they can see it in real life all the time. What needs to happen and what doesn't necessarily happen in real life. And I say necessarily because it does, but it doesn't happen from people or from sources they respect. They don't have their friend tell them this is you being racist. So they need the show to be very clear about how this is wrong and what is wrong about it. You can't just be like, them not saving themselves. It's like, that can't be the way we be like, damn, they so racist, they don't want to save themselves. That don't mean that's the world. That is our politics. I don't know what the UK looking like, but in the US, people consistently vote against their own. Women vote for Trump. Women vote for these politicians that take away their reproductive rights. White people vote Republican straight down. All them tax breaks come out of their ability to get food. The welfare the welfare state affect white people as much, if not more, because there are just more white people. There's more. There are more.
There's literally more.
Y'all are hurting yourselves by taking away these programs because y'all want to hurt black and brown people. Right. So it's one of those things. We know that people don't want to save themselves because they want to be racist. How are you combating that? What are you interrogating by just showing it? Right. You're not. And so the key for the showing the thing is that you can't just show it. You have to also combat it. You have to also say, this is why this does not work. And like them not saving themselves is not, I'm sorry, that's just not a big enough gotcha. That's not a big enough like shock. Because we know that that's how people are. We see it every day. And again, that might be a cultural thing. That might be a thing where in the UK that's not clear. On the US, that is, I can turn on news right now and I can see a perfect example of this exact thing. Like, I don't need that. So if you're gonna show it, and that's the thing with all these,
it is over there because that's what they did with Brexit, right? Which, like, I'm not gonna pretend to know y'all's politics. Do not come for me. I'm American. Fine.
But it's just like it
was very clearly a like fear of
the other,
you know, like
brown
other
people,
immigrants, all these things, to take and then taking away stuff that like your community
that everybody, right, that everybody benefits from.
So
it's just weird, but it's like that's been my consistent issue with all these future episodes, especially because they keep showing the problem and never showing. And you don't have to show a solution, but you have to show that a solution is needed. You have to be very clear that the circumstances that created this need to be addressed, dismantled. We need to combat it. Like with the babies in space or space babies, same difference, I guess. It's like everything is a given. Capitalism. What can you do? War. What can you do? But we're gonna take these these refugees to this refugee planet where they can be saved. That don't solve shit. We don't talk at all about the fact that like maybe we should have baby farm revolution, like something like they don't even address the fact that like this baby farm situation should not have occurred, right? Like kind of say it. And if you are tuned in like we are, and I'm like I have some political understanding, I don't know that a person that's not tuned in is even picking up on the stuff they are saying because they're not saying nothing directly.
Even for folks that are tuned in, part of the problem with it is that people end up doing the work for the episode.
That's
right?
what
people
I'm
are
saying.
Putting their own knowledge of like, oh, this moment is the doctor learning, blah, 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 blah. That was not in the script. That did not happen. That is you doing the work for the show. And like, one, not everybody has the capacity to do that. And then two, like, that's labor from you, right? Like that should like, like but if you're gonna do the thing, do it full out, do it in a way where like the audience does not have to be the ones that are like filling in the cracks and like assuming these things and trying to convince each other one way or another. If this was the doctor truly reckoning with being the one in the Black body instead of just having Black companions around him, then like when those people leave, if you don't want to do it during the back and forth, there needs to actually be that statement, that conversation, that whatever, especially because the next episode, y'all about to jump to the next thing, right? These have not been connected in any way. We're about to be in the whole on to the next situation. And at that point, why is this the one we need? The doctor has experiences we don't see on screen, right? There are times he comes back and you're like, oh, this happened. Boop, 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 boop. Tell stories all the time. There could have been 5 minutes in any other episode where the doctor and Ruby have a conversation where the doctor's like, damn, like, yeah, this is, you were here and whatever. Like, I don't know. There could have been other moments where the doctor has named, I'm in a different body and people treat me differently. I'm aware of that without having an entire episode that then doesn't even explore it at the end.
Right.
Doing that only serves white fans,
And
or it's
it
like a thing for
only
the writer,
it,
right? It's like a look how clever I am.
but
I
no,
got to
here's the
play with
thing.
this in this way. Like, who is it for? If the
But like, it doesn't
entire
just only serve
series,
white fans. It harms other fans.
right?
It's not the same. It's not even.
Yes.
There are a lot of times when they're neutral, where I'm like, I get what they're doing.
Yeah.
I see the illusions. We are actively experiencing that as the viewers. So it's not even the same as like, oh,
Yeah.
like this is for them and we get nothing from it because it's not. We know these
Yeah.
things, right? Like it's like we have to
Additions.
by proxy experience it because the doctor is experiencing it directly, and there is no. We get to say among ourselves like, oh, you gotta be fucked up, but the doctor does not at any point throughout, even the end, get to be upset about that part. He gets to be upset that they don't want to live, whatever. He don't get to be upset about the fact that they are treating him the way they treat him, right? Like, and I get that. Again, I know that this is the doctor. I'm not putting like my morality on him or my own, but we've seen the doctor be like, we know that the doctor will accept certain levels of like, I'm gonna take this one because it's more important that like we get out of here or whatever the situation is. But there's like he doesn't stand up for himself in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't in any way like name that how he treated is fucked up. Before they even get to the quote unquote twist, there's like times when like he could just be like, okay, like it's like like, and I get it because as a like there are we experience microaggressions, and I'm saying microaggressions specifically. There are the little small things. We'll make eye contact and be like, "Bitch, you saw that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You peeped that, right?" Or you just like these are things that you don't necessarily remark on, especially with other black people. However, he's not with another black person, even though Ruby may have the context and might still peek and be like, "Oh, that was a little something or another." But also, more importantly, if this episode is to show white people that this is a problem, you have to make that explicit because if they don't know it's a problem to the very end, you ain't doing enough. You didn't do what you needed to do, and a lot of people.
And they've done it before because they did it with the Witchfinder episode with the Last Doctor, right? Where like
Yeah.
that whole episode we're dealing with the gender thing and the king
Yeah.
not wanting to engage with the doctor as an expert, and then as a crew, the doctor and the companions figuring out how to navigate that and move
And
forward
like
with that.
consistently like working with it, but also like combating it. They
Right.
like there's this very small, and it doesn't take like when I say combat, I don't mean like he got to get. You don't have to get nasty back, but you could just acknowledge that like a harm is being done. Like with the Witchfinder, it's funny because it's like everybody's a level of they just being very silly. They're being very silly people.
There's
So like
happening throughout.
right, so like they already established King James as being like not he's not they didn't send their best, right? So like we already have a baseline of like this is already silly. This is a silly person. This is silly behavior. Everything he thinks is not. This is not. He's not forward thinking. He's not the best person to go to for this, right? And then we also have the episode in it of itself is like, this what you get when you treat women a certain way, or when you have these preconceptions about what women are, whatever. That is all built into that episode. That is all built into the episode so that it is not, you are not just consistently be like, women suck the whole episode, and then at the end it's like, yeah, women actually do fucking suck. And that's the end of the episode. Because that would be crazy, right? Like that would be wow. It's like, what? Like that's what this episode is basically like. They relying on the audience to like the doctor. It relies on you to care about the doctor. And the thing about it is that like, let's say I'm a new viewer that have not followed the doctor and this is my first doctor. That is not a great place to be because you don't know how he has in the past established, like how he's, you don't know that that's his way yet, right? Because we haven't technically gotten to a place where it's like these big, like they haven't got to a Dalek or a Cyberman thing where it's like I have to really choose like the one or the many or any of those kind of choices. They haven't had those. They've had kind of very pocket, smaller scale things. So this is your first doctor, and this is your first experience, and this is the first thing you learn about the doctor and how he handles shit. That he will put himself on the mind, which there are different variations of that, but this is very much like I will jump on a mind that we all can see instead of just all of us walking around the mind. You see what I'm saying? Like I will let myself take this pain and this abuse just for the fuck of it. Because again, the mind is visible. We can all walk around the mind. It's one of those things that I'm like, I don't think that should be how people see the doctor in terms of like their capacity to save people. Because that to me, we know because we watched it. But usually there is still some conversation, some dilemma of like what saving this person does for this person or saving with these. Like, yes,
The
maybe I
moral
had to let
question is
these
stated
right.
explicitly in a lot of
Right.
episodes.
And this one is like it relies on us to know, which if they don't know, which a lot of people didn't know, you're not changing minds because you are not actually like engaging those minds. They don't know that there's a conversation happening. They're not privy to that conversation. You have to be explicit. Like there are times when you can do illusion, like it. And this not Doctor Who. It's like I think about like X-Men and how many people are like it got political. I said, bitch, X-Men is political as a concept. The concept is political. It has never not been political. They are not making it more political, honestly. Wait, but if you have never had to experience life where you think about these things in a and how being in your body affects how you move through the world. You don't have to think about how laws affect you specifically because you are immune from a lot of the negative effects of these things. Like, but it's X-Men is like we gonna kill the people. Like Magneto, like I'm just go ahead and kill everybody, and they'll figure it out. And then Xavier, like we should probably try to work with the people. And so it's very clear. It's two very clear stances. And there are other like people that come in and be like, okay, wait a minute, I got an option that might also be a little fun. But for the most part, it's very black
Secret
and
third
white in
option.
terms of like, it's very clear. Like the audience knows what the two opposing ideologies are. There's never a like question of what Magneto is thinking. There's never a question of like, ooh, is it? In this show, in this series right now, there is a lot of like, there is no, I know the doctor because I know the doctor, but I don't know the doctor. Like, I think I know the doctor, but then I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. That don't seem right to me. And it's very confusing for me as a person who obviously we've been
Well, and
watching
it's
all
also
the
the
doctor.
second full episode where like he's barely on screen, right? And it's by design in both, but it's just like 2 full episodes?
This is how my brain worked. I said, okay, bet they knew like Shooty did not have to be in those scenes. So he's just reading the script and responding to the camera and not having to see. Like I was in my head, this is how I justified this and was like, I'm actually okay with this. That he, for the most part, did not engage with most of that script with those white actors, right? Like he was just talking to the camera, like, that's crazy. Boop, 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 do this, do that, but not having to like have the back and forth with the actors. And I could be wrong. They might have still filmed it that way, but I just assumed he got into his little booth, did his parts. It was kind of safe. And I kind of was like, this is gonna be my takeaway. My takeaway in that he did not have the experience what I, as the audience member, had to experience because that shit was uncomfortable from top to bottom. It was so uncomfortable. And it was like, what's wild is because it was
Hit him
uncomfortable
up
from the
like, you
beginning.
have not gone through what we have gone through.
Like, we have suffered for you.
It just leaves me with the question of like, okay, we've done it. Are we done now? Like, can we move forward with the doctor as the doctor existing in this black body and move forward from that lens? Or are we going to have several more episodes? It's like, no, actually, it's really just still this white man in blackface, right? Because that's what it's like. Like he's reacting this way because this is his first time in this body and in this space, and so we have to understand that we have to engage with him that way. How long are we going to be expected to engage with him that way? Because it's a different viewing experience, right? That doesn't take away like
no,
the
it's like it's
actor's brilliant.
actively.
That doesn't take away whatever, but that is not, especially for like new folks coming in, not necessarily what folks are coming in for. It's like, it's what is the point of rebooting if you're just going to be like, but remember, he's still actually
Right.
like,
That's my thing. It's like how much of his previous incarnations are supposed to inform what we like. I'm obviously engaged with it from a point of like this is the 15th iteration of him that I've seen, right? Like or whatever, for 13.75, whatever, because they keep playing with them numbers. But like, so we have all this context, but am I supposed to talk that? Because that maybe changes
I don't even
my
think it's
experience, but
tossing
I don't
it.
even
I
know
think
because they're not
they
clear.
write it where some of that work is done
Mm-hmm.
off screen. Like it doesn't have to like that doesn't have to be the episode. Like I think it can
No, yeah,
be
I mean this was
acknowledged
just
and woven in
horrible,
with plot lines that
a
are not
horrible episode.
centered on that. But if the plot line is just going to be centered around like, oh, a white man understanding prejudice for the first time, like I don't want 3 more episodes. I don't
Right.
like
But
you
it's
know,
weird
like
because, like, again, we know that the doctor has experienced it by proxy, right? Like, again, not what's not great about it, or not by proxy, but like as a observer. What's not great about it, and this is here's the also thing because I cannot remove it from historical context. But like Russell T Davies, one of the biggest criticisms of his initial era was how he treated black people. Like Martha's whole family, like Mickey. So you know that there is a sensitivity around this kind of treatment. And I think in his mind, he thought, okay, the joke's on the white supremacists on this one because they're going to die. But like, we still had to. It's like the master being beat at the end of that one with the whole family was on the ship
yeah.
being indentured servant to someone named the master, that doesn't them winning in the end doesn't change the fact that me as a person, a black person, had to watch them be indentured servants to a person named the master. The family of blood doesn't them winning in the end doesn't change the fact that I had to watch not just right Martha experience racism, but the doctor himself
Be
be racist
a
to her.
racist.
So you know this. You know this is a big part of the criticism of that era, right? This is one of the lingering criticisms because it's the thing that has yet to be corrected in any era. And we thought, okay, this motherfucker coming back, got a black doctor, we might get it. We might get some acknowledgement or some like just a better treatment. And to me, I mean, kudos up until this point, it hasn't been a factor because also it's fake. Like the future, and like I don't think like if in y'all version of the future every other ism still exists, but whatever. Like seeing a black man ain't that jarring, whatever. But like we finally address it, and we address it in the most heinous. Like there are worse ways to address it. Let's be clear. They could have taken to the past and been like, "Oh, he in America in 1600." Like, let's maybe not do that. But like you did the modern version. Like it still hurts. It still harms viewers because these are the things that like we have to navigate every day, all the time. And you just packed it into 45 minutes. Again, like when I said like it was so many back to back. I said, damn, how the fuck did you even think of all these? Like you were just sitting there like, how can I be right? Like I feel like we need to have a conversation about why you
Do
was
a
just
list of microaggressions.
right. Like, why do you have so many to call upon for this script? Like, it was non-stop. And it's like, and I'm thinking, like, okay, you probably had to know or talk to a black person to really, because some of these are like the deep cuts. Like, white people will not clock or pick these up. So you must have had a black person somewhere in the vicinity of this script. But yes, they were not at the end, or you didn't tell them the whole, like, you might just be like, so what are some common micro and not giving them context. I think perhaps they would have given you a different they would have gave you something else. They would have been like, let me steer you this way instead because what you're doing is not it. So it's weird to me because I feel like you almost had to know or have a black person in conversation to get all because the point being that most people watching that were not like not just black people of color because these are microaggressions a lot of people of color have, but black people specifically. Like most white people did not pick them up. These are not things people notice that they do. These are things that like behaviors that non-racist That was quote fingers. Y'all can't see it, but it was quote fingers. The non-racist people do all the time because it's not. They don't read it as racist. So like you had enough information. You had enough like I know these things. It's like now I'm questioning you as a person. Cause do you just be out here microaggressing people? When you think about it, like you either had a black person around but didn't have them around and like all the way through, or you didn't have a black person around, which is I don't know which one is worse.
Or they share this like white lives matter more than racist violence philosophy.
But I was gonna say, and it's also very possible that they're just we're not monoliths. We're not a monolith. So there are black people who would have thought this was the altruistic way to address the happenings, and that there are black people who will say, who I don't know them. I haven't met them. I don't personally know any. But there are some that exist who will be like, because the doctor is the doctor, and he's a hero, and he will save even the people. And I'm like, and I love that for them. But I want to say, as one positive, that the acting was fucking great. Yeah. It was like some of the best acting because some of that, a lot of what we pick up is also the response. But it's one of those things like you know to pay attention to it, you see it. But if you don't know, which apparently a lot of the audience did not, you probably are not recognizing
across the board. Every actor did amazing. Like it was very interesting.
It's just yeah, it's one of those things. So I will say that beautiful gowns, gorgeous gowns, but like we can't keep relying on Ncuti being fantastic and the cast being great. We get like that. I at the beginning of this, I said, "Oh, I believe that the acting is going to carry more than the scripts are." Yeah. But that cannot be. We can't just because I expect that don't mean that that's what y'all gonna do. Like you can't do it. Like you have to try to make the script worthwhile, like worthy of the performances that these actors are giving. But yeah, the acting was on point. Like to the point, if I see that lady in the street, it's on fucking sight, Lindy. Like you ain't never getting no piece of you around me. Like for real. Like it's. I mean, the acting was great, but like it just wasn't. I just hated the everything, like all the other things about like every other thing that was happening. I just hated it. I was like, this is very irritating. It was irritating. It was annoying. It was racist. Like here's the thing, even without the racism, it was also still irritating and annoying. Like I gotta like I need to be clear about this. Like the racism is it's like I probably could have dealt with one or the other. Like if I liked the episode a lot, but like but it's racist, i.e. family of blood. Or like you know, or it's like no racism, but this part, it's the both. It's the both. Like pick a struggle, friend. Like I'm not doing this with y'all. And I just never rooted for anybody less than I rooted for Lindy. And I have like just not a likable character. Like in like I can't even imagine. That's another thing. That's someone saying, oh, I stopped rooting for her. Like I think Talia said in our chat, a lot of people were with her until she like turns on Ricky. So y'all think this is a nice, like normal kind person? Like this is wild to me. That informs so much. I'm like, oh, that explains many things. Like racism aside, I would find them very like I would not like that energy. But a lot of people were like, oh, that's a bad person. Like it took them way too long in the episode to figure that out. And I'm not shocked though. But it does help to realize that. It just does help to realize that like people genuinely do not see things you see. And like I knew that, you know that as a black person, as a black femme person, as a queer person, that people are not picking up or seeing things the way you are. But I like it's dissonance for me. I'm like, damn, like y'all really thought this was like a nice character before that. Like without the like the way they treated they own like the way they talk.
I don't even know if it's thinking that they're nice, but I don't think that like
or nice,
the whole
but not
point
realizing
here is that care for white people doesn't require niceness, right? Like that is what.
But like they thought that like
it boils
a person to root like, for. What in the word I'm thinking?
They are rooting for her because she's young and white, and the protagonist, so we need to root for her. And there's no other interrogation of that. And like
Ah, I was
characters
like, hope she
with
dies.
any other identities, right, don't get that same assumed, oh, you gonna get there in the end, or we gonna root for you on the journey or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think that's like how it is. And the doctor affirms that at the end.
If I was a person who liked her for some reason throughout the episode, I would personally feel like I need to go do work with myself. I'd be like, what about her made me think that she was likable? Like that would make me self-conscious. And I would be like, I gotta obviously go read some books or do some things because I would be embarrassed. Like, I would be embarrassed to be like, oh, I was with her. I was never with her. I was like, she gonna die right here in this office. That's what I thought. She didn't. Can't save them all. Can't save a person who don't want to save themselves. That would have been a good lesson. And then you could have went to a person who wanted to save themselves. Like perhaps Ricky, even though I want to be clear, I don't think that Ricky was not also all of these things. He just read books. But we don't know who books he's reading because it's books on this planet. They was
Fair.
like, oh, it's like I have to assume these are probably also very white supremacist books, but they have information. So he knew more than them,
Right.
than the average resident, but probably still not much in the grand scheme of things. But he was willing to trust the doctor, so maybe if it centered on him, we would have got.
It could have even been like interesting to have him survive to the end and like be the one that decides to go with the doctor, right? Or you have like
Right.
someone's like Lindy's shocked that her hero dares to
That's
travel
what
with a black man.
I kind of for a second. It
Um,
was like a moment where I was like, maybe he gonna huff and puff and come out like I made it, you bitch, or whatever. Like, I genuinely was at that point like
this
dying.
lying bitch.
Like, yeah, because that wasn't my job, and it didn't kill whatever, like something, like where it was just like you thought.
Oh, that would have been funny.
Fine.
All right. Well, should we move to quotes? We only have the one, and we've
I
talked
was about
about
to
it
say I have no
extensively,
vote.
really. I don't know if our baddies that are here watching live, if there are any quotes that you took from the episode. The only one I wrote down was the statement of the doctor just being like, I don't care what you think. You can do what you want. I'll do anything. Just let me save you. Which I've ranted about exclusively at this point. So
It's just
part of the issue was that, like, again, the doctor was barely on screen throughout. So like there weren't a lot of quotes to pull from him, and then like the quotes from Lindy weren't like,
I don't. I do not
you
want to
know,
repeat things that.
yeah, things to hold on to. There weren't like gems to hold on to. It was just like,
Right. I mean, like, I
Ruby
think
being the worst.
I don't remember because I was like, I'm not rewatching this to write this down. I just remember Ruby's like incredulousness, and so like just
Yeah.
the like still, I think is what she said, and that was like the quote. That's the thing that stuck with me because it's like, again, what about everything you've seen on this adventure has made you believe that racism would somehow not make it? But I also think it's. I mean, I like the fact that she's hopeful enough that that's surprising for her. You know what I mean? Like, I like the fact that she's like, damn, like, are you fucking serious? Like, are y'all being for real right now? I do like that she's incredulous about it because she's like, all right, we being so
Yeah.
serious right now. But I also think like because of where this falls in the season and every previous future episode has shown that like humans have not evolved past any of our base like problems.
Well,
That
and
to
I
be
will say
surprised is also surprising. It's not the both ends.
she and the doctor are kind of coming at it from two different sides. Because like I don't know, maybe it is partly shock that quote the racism still exists. I think she thought that like once they were
Oh, he
saved,
helped
they
them.
would see sense. Right. Like I think she thought that like because throughout she's very much
Probably,
operating
but
in this like humoring Lindy space. Like she comes in and she's like, "Oh, your top is so nice. Like please let me
oh yeah.
whatever." Like I think she for definitely has a framework of like whether it's class or whatever, like some like this is a white person I need to engage with in a very specific way. And she clocks
Mm-hmm.
that from jump. But like you said, still has that hope that like they'll be able to see it through. And then at the end, when the doctor is having this whole like I'm being treated differently because I'm in a black body moment and mad at them and that, I kind of read, but again, this is me doing a lot of work. This wasn't in the script. This is my interpretation. Ruby's like crying and frustration at like as for him instead of for them. I don't think
No,
she's
I guess
crying
that makes sense.
about the people choosing death. I think she is upset that she, as someone who has probably again seen this with her own family, right? Like
Yeah.
grown up with black family, probably seen them have to deal with racist violence and abuse. Like now I'm watching another person that I love and I'm like getting to know have to experience this same kind of abuse in freaking space in the future. Like I think that it was like a um sadness and care for the doctor thing, which is
Yeah.
hilarious because the
I could
doctor is,
see
as far
that.
as we know, focused on the Nazis still and himself. But
The whole thing. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I was like, I like that she's upset by it because it like because I do think again going back to performances that um they are clearly picking up everything that's happening. They're aware of it in the moment that they are happening. Like Lindy will say something and Ruby is like, you know, a little eyebrow, like, oh, okay, period. But it's also she, like you said, is engaging with this woman in a specific way because she knows how she has to engage. So I do appreciate that there's not like a we don't get to the end and then like Ruby is like Ruby has been peeping the whole time.
yeah, so Rebecca and Talia both had quotes that like I did write down but didn't include in the thing. So Talia is Ricky speaking to Lindy, and Ricky's like, "Don't tell anyone." But I opened the bubble, dropped my songs, and then I turn off the dot for the rest of the day. Lindy's like, "Oh my goodness, you're so wild," because you know she's fine with the white folks breaking the rules. And Ricky's like, "I know, I just stay in my apartment and read," and it was very funny to have like the um, you know, kind of famous pop star, whatever, be like, I do not I go to work, I come home. Like I'm
Right.
not trying to hang out on the bubble with y'all all day. I'm gonna go read my books. And then this one, Rebecca, I did also write down with Lindy saying, "Oh, I thought this was the worst day of my life, but it might be the best." And Ricky's like, "Bitch, there are still people eating." He doesn't say the bitch part, my addition, but
But maybe
it
a
was
good bitch
like,
would
"What do
go
you
elevate.
mean?"
No, yeah, like
Jeez.
okay, like okay. Um yeah. That was funny because I was just like he was like, are you sure? He also like I think it's like he had a micro version of like maybe you shouldn't be like a
Yeah, he was like,
very
"I don't think I like you."
momentary thought of like perhaps I should have let her get eaten. Like or perhaps I should have just let her keep like walking the wrong way.
Um, cool. Well, hopefully next week will be I
Child.
don't know.
Well, it's a past
Different, I
episode,
guess. I
right?
don't want to say lighter. Yeah, maybe.
Or like it takes place like not in the future.
Yeah,
I think. I
I'd
think
say
so far the ones that take
let's
place in the future are weird, and the ones that take place in the past or like present day or past are
mhm.
fine. But at this point, I'm like, I just I'm tired. Like I'm tired. I'm weary. You can find us at blacknurseCreate.com and come kick it with us in our Black Nurse Create Discord server. We're on the site formerly known as Twitter at BLKNurseCreate and everywhere else at Black Nurse Create. Talk to us on socials using the hashtag Tarvis and tell us what you thought about Dot and whatever it's called. I never forgot.
Dot and
You know the name
bubble.
of the episode. Dot and Bubble. Let us know. Let if you are a person of no color, let us know what time
Why
at
would
what
you
point in the
say it like
episode
that?
you like recognized that it was racism. Like be honest with us. We want to know. We genuinely want to know. And if you are a person of color, sorry, I hate that this happened to us. I do, but maybe next week it'll be fine. Talk to y'all soon.
Wild outro. Thanks, y'all.